Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Metaphysics Podcast. I'm Dennis Goddard.
And I'm Louise Hicks.
So today we're diving into a concept that might just change how you view your relationships.
Yeah, have you ever felt a disconnect with someone, like you're just not on the same wavelength?
Yeah, like we're going to explore that feeling today and maybe offer some insight into why it happens.
We're going to be looking at the work of Darryl Anka channeling Bashar,
Oh, okay.
specifically the idea of vibrational compatibility.
Have you ever heard that phrase before?
I'm sure you have.
I have, but to be honest, it always sounded a bit woo-woo to me.
Okay.
Can you break it down for us?
Well, Bashar describes it as this: each person emits a certain energy or vibration
Right.
based on their thoughts, feelings, and beliefs.
Okay.
It's like we each have our own unique energetic signature.
Okay, I can kind of picture that.
Yeah,
So are you saying that people with similar energies or vibrations are naturally drawn to each other?
exactly.
Oh.
And when people have very different vibrations, communication can become really difficult.
Ah.
It's like trying to have a conversation with someone speaking a different language.
Yep.
You might hear the words, but the meaning gets lost in translation.
That makes a lot of sense. I know I've definitely had those conversations
Right.
where it feels like I'm talking to a brick wall, and no matter how clearly I think I'm expressing myself.
And that's where the idea of embracing authenticity comes in.
Okay.
Bashar emphasizes that pretending to be someone you're not actually prevents genuine connection.
Interesting.
You might temporarily vibe with someone else's energy, but it won't be fulfilling in the long run.
So it's not just about finding people who vibrate at the same frequency as us,
Right.
but also about being true to our own unique energetic signature.
Absolutely. And that can be a really powerful shift in perspective. If
Yeah.
you're always adjusting your energy to match someone else's, you're not allowing your true self to shine through.
It's almost like you're dimming your own light to fit in, which ultimately doesn't serve anyone.
Exactly. And that can lead to a lot of frustration and resentment down the line.
Right.
Bashar really emphasizes the importance of honoring your own unique vibration, even if it means some relationships change or evolve.
I'm curious, have you ever experienced this in your own life, this sense of needing to adjust your energy to fit in?
Definitely. I think we've all been there at some point, especially in those early formative years when we're trying to figure out who we are and where we belong.
It's almost like we're all born with these unique radio frequencies.
Right.
But then we spend years trying to tune into the stations that everyone else is listening to.
I love that analogy.
Yeah,
And sometimes we end up listening to static for way too long before we realize we have the power to choose a different channel.
exactly. We can actually create our own playlist, so to speak, filled with the frequencies that uplift and inspire us.
Right.
But sometimes it can be scary to change the channel, right?
Absolutely. Especially if we've been tuned in to a particular station for a long time, even if it's not truly resonating with us.
Right.
There can be a fear of the unknown, a fear of losing connections.
That makes a lot of sense. So how do we navigate that fear? How do we start to embrace our authentic selves, even if it means shaking things up a bit?
Well, one of the things Bashar talks about is the importance of trusting the process.
Trust the process. I hear that phrase a lot.
Right.
But what does it actually mean in this context?
It means trusting that even if things feel a bit chaotic or uncertain as we begin to shift our energy,
Okay.
we're ultimately being guided towards a greater sense of alignment and fulfillment.
Okay, so it's about having faith that even if we lose some connections along the way, we'll attract new ones that are more in tune with our true selves.
Precisely. And that those new connections will be more authentic, more fulfilling, and more supportive of our growth and evolution.
This is all starting to make sense, but I'm also wondering about the practical side of things.
Okay.
If we feel like we're out of sync with someone, how do we actually change the dynamic?
Well, the first step is simply becoming aware of the energetic mismatch. Once we recognize that there's a difference in vibrations, we can start to make conscious choices about how we interact with that person.
So instead of trying to force the conversation or change the other person,
Yeah,
we focus on how we're showing up in the interaction.
exactly. We can choose to engage with that person from a place of authenticity, honoring our own energy and boundaries.
This is all great stuff, and I know we have a lot more to unpack. If you're enjoying this conversation so far, make sure to subscribe to the Metaphysics Podcast so you don't miss out on the rest of this deep dive.
And don't forget to hit that like button and share this episode with your friends. The more we can spread these ideas, the more we can raise the collective vibration and create a world where everyone feels empowered to embrace their authentic selves. Welcome back to the Metaphysics Podcast.
We're talking about vibrational compatibility and embracing authenticity. And honestly, this is all starting to click for me.
Oh, good.
It's like I'm finally understanding why certain relationships feel so effortless,
Right.
while others feel like a constant uphill battle.
Like you're finally tuning into the right station after years of listening to static. And what's fascinating is that Once we start to embrace our authentic selves, we actually begin to attract more people who vibe with our energy.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's like we're putting out a signal that says, this is who I am, take it or leave it.
And the people who resonate with that signal are the ones who are meant to be in our lives.
Right.
Right? It's not about trying to force connections or fit in where we don't belong.
Exactly. And, this whole idea of embracing authenticity can sometimes feel a little intimidating.
Uh-huh.
It can bring up fears of rejection or judgment. But Bashar has a really interesting perspective on that.
Okay.
He suggests that when we're truly being ourselves,
Yeah.
we actually becomes less concerned with what others think.
Oh, interesting.
We're no longer seeking validation from outside sources because we're already validated from within.
That's a powerful concept of like we're shifting from a place of seeking approval to a place of self-acceptance.
Exactly. And that self-acceptance is like a magnet. That attracts people who resonate with our authentic energy. It's like we're broadcasting a clear signal that says, this is who I am and I'm proud of it.
And that kind of confidence is contagious, right?
Yeah.
It inspires others to embrace their own uniqueness.
Absolutely. It's like we're all part of a grand orchestra, each playing our own unique instrument.
Oh, I like that.
And when we're all in tune with ourselves, the music we create together is harmonious and beautiful. But when we're trying to play someone else's instrument or force ourselves to fit into a melody that doesn't resonate with our soul, the music becomes discordant.
That's such a great analogy. So how do we find our own unique melody, so to speak?
Right.
How do we tap into that authentic self that's been there all along?
Bashar talks about this concept of permission slips,
Okay.
which are essentially tools or practices that help us expand our awareness and connect with our true selves. Have you ever heard of that?
Permission slip. Now, that's a new one for me. I'm intrigued. What are some examples of these permission slips?
Well, one of the simplest yet most powerful permission slips is the act of looking in the mirror.
Okay.
But not just glancing at our reflection as we rush out the door.
Right.
The Shar suggests gazing into our own eyes with intention, really seeing ourselves beyond the physical form.
Okay, that sounds a little intense, but also kind of fascinating. What are we supposed to see when we do that?
It's not about seeing anything specific. It's about creating a space for self-reflection and connection. It's about acknowledging all the different aspects of ourselves, the light and the shadow, the strengths and the vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
It's about allowing ourselves to be fully seen by ourselves, first and foremost.
It's like we're giving ourselves permission to simply be without judgment or expectation.
Exactly. And in that space of allowing, we can start to tap into a deeper level of self-awareness. We might notice patterns of behavior that are no longer serving us. We might have insights into our motivations and desires.
Uh-huh.
We might even catch glimpses of our soul's purpose.
Wow, that's pretty deep. And you're saying all of this can come from simply looking in the mirror. I'm going to have to try that.
I encourage you to. And remember, there are countless other permission slips we can explore.
Right.
It's about finding the practices and tools that resonate with us personally. Meditation, journaling, spending time in nature, creative expression. These are all ways of connecting with our inner world and giving ourselves permission to be who we truly are.
I love this idea of giving ourselves permission.
Yeah.
It's like we've been holding ourselves back for so long, afraid to step into our full potential.
Right.
But what if all we needed was our own permission to shine?
Exactly. What if we've been waiting for someone else to give us permission to be ourselves when all along we have the power to grant it to ourselves?
This is all so inspiring, but I'm also realizing that embracing authenticity is an ongoing process. It's not like we flip a switch and suddenly we're fully self-actualized. There are going to be moments when we fall back into old patterns,
Right.
moments when we doubt ourselves or seek validation from others.
Absolutely. It's a journey, not a destination. And the more we practice these permission slips, the more we cultivate self-awareness and compassion, the easier it becomes to navigate those moments of doubt and uncertainty.
So it's not about being perfect.
Yeah.
It's about being present, being curious, and being willing to learn and grow along the way.
Exactly. And it's about remembering that we're all in this together. We're all on this journey of self-discovery, and we can support each other by sharing our experiences, offering encouragement, and celebrating each other's unique expressions of authenticity.
I love that we're all in this together. And speaking of being together, we have a lot more to explore in this deep dive. Make sure to stick around for part 3, where we'll delve into even more practical tips and techniques for aligning with your authentic self and attracting relationships that nourish your soul.
And while you're waiting, we'd love to hear from you. Hit that like button and leave a comment below, sharing your thoughts on vibrational compatibility and embracing authenticity. Have you experienced these concepts in your own life? What are your favorite permission slips for connecting with your true self?
Welcome back to the Metaphysics Podcast.
We're continuing our deep dive into vibrational compatibility and embracing authenticity.
One thing that's been coming up for me as we've been talking is this idea of anxiety.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I'm wondering if there's a connection between anxiety and this whole idea of vibrational compatibility. Like, could our anxieties actually be blocking us from connecting with people who are on the same wavelength?
That's a really insightful question. I think there's definitely a connection. When we're anxious, our energy tends to become scattered and chaotic. It's like we're sending out mixed signals,
Right.
which can make it difficult for others to tune in.
It's like we're broadcasting static instead of a clear signal, right?
Exactly. And that static can create a sense of disconnect,
Yeah,
not just with others, but also with ourselves.
right.
We can start to feel like we're not fully present, like we're
Right.
not really in our bodies.
And that lack of presence can lead to even more anxiety,
Yeah,
creating a vicious cycle.
it can, but the good news is that we have the power to break that cycle.
Okay,
Bashar talks about the importance of trusting the process.
right.
And I think that's especially relevant when it comes to anxiety.
So how do we trust the process when our minds are racing and our hearts are pounding? It's not always easy to just relax and let go.
It's not, but one of the most powerful things we can do is simply acknowledge our anxiety without judgment.
Okay,
It's like saying, okay, I see you anxiety, I know you're here, but I'm not going to let you run the show.
it's about creating space for those anxious feelings without letting them consume us.
Exactly. And from that place of awareness,
Right.
we can start to explore what's triggering our anxiety. Are we worried about something specific? Are we feeling overwhelmed? Are we afraid of something?
And once we identify those triggers, we can start to develop coping mechanisms.
Right.
Whether it's meditation, deep breathing exercises, spending time in nature, or talking to a therapist, there are so many tools available to help us manage anxiety.
There are, and it's about finding what works for you personally.
Yeah.
What helps you feel grounded and centered?
Right?
What helps you connect with your inner peace? It's a journey of self-discovery, and it's worth the effort.
It is. And I think it's important to remember that we don't have to go through this alone.
Yeah,
There are so many resources available both online and in our communities.
absolutely. And reaching out for support can be a powerful act of self-care. It can help us feel less isolated and more connected, which can in turn reduce anxiety.
So if you're struggling with anxiety, please know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
There is help available and there is hope.
And as we start to manage our anxiety, we'll naturally start to radiate a calmer, more centered energy, which can then attract people who are vibrating at a similar frequency.
It's like we're clearing the static from our signal, making it easier for others to tune in and connect with our true selves.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of vibrational compatibility. When we're in alignment with ourselves, we naturally attract people who are in alignment with us.
It's like we're all part of this grand cosmic dance, each moving to our own rhythm, yet somehow harmonizing with each other.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought to ponder. What if embracing our authentic selves is not about achieving some fixed destination, but rather about enjoying the infinite dance of unfolding that is life itself?
Beautiful. It's about trusting the process, tuning into our unique frequencies, and celebrating the interconnected symphony of existence. And if you enjoyed this exploration of metaphysics and consciousness, be sure to like this episode, subscribe to our channel, and share it with your friends.
And remember, the journey of self-discovery is an ongoing adventure. So stay curious, keep exploring, and never stop tuning into the beautiful music of your soul.